laid on my heart. And honestly, somebody asked me, said, and by the way, I've had several requests too, but I'm going to speak anyhow, okay? Just for you. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to speak anyhow. Somebody asked me one time, said, does Michael Combs do contemporary? And I said, no. They said, does he do Southern Gospel? And I said, well, no. Does he do prayer? I said, no. They said, well, what does he do? I said, Michael Combs. He writes his own music, he writes his own words, and I mean, it's a unique voice, a unique ministry, and thank God for it so much. If you have your Bibles, turn to the book of 2 Chronicles, chapter 6. I want to share with you, if you're going to miss a night of this service, don't miss Wednesday night. I would rather, as good as yesterday was, I would rather you miss yesterday. As good as last night was, I'd rather you miss last night. As good as tonight is, I'd rather you miss tonight and tomorrow night, rather than miss Wednesday night. God has a word for you as a church Wednesday night. Amen. And He's leading us up to that word. It's going to be a brief time after Brother Ken sings, but we're going to have a word from the Lord Wednesday night. Don't miss Wednesday night. Whatever you do, it could change your life, your entire life, I promise you. Now the book of 2 Chronicles, we're going to be working in it all week, but in the book of 2 Chronicles, chapter 6, it tells us, and I know you guys love this, and I know you're timing me too. When I said 10 minutes, Ben's got his countdown going on. I know, yeah. And here we go. And now this is the wisest man that ever lived. And somebody said the reason that he's so wise is his sermon that's recorded for us in 2 Chronicles chapter 6, verse 1 through 11 takes less than 2 minutes to read. Is that a wise preacher or what? That's a wise preacher. He didn't lose his audience, did he? I'm telling you. But in those first 11 verses of that chapter, we see Solomon's message. This is his sermon, the message that he gives. He talks to them about the faithfulness of God in verses 4 and 10. He tells them about what all God's done for them. I mean, how God's been faithful, how God made promises years and years ago, and how God fulfilled all those promises. With the words out of his mouth and with his hands, he did with his hands what he said he would do with his mouth. That's a good God, isn't he? Faithful. So he talks about the faithfulness of God. And then he talks about, in that same little passage of Scripture, in verse 6, we talked about it yesterday morning, he talks about the sovereignty of God. Solomon simply says, God's the boss. He does as he pleases. Nothing glorious about you, nothing beautiful about you, nothing desirable about you, but God chose you. And he said that, and that's because God's sovereign. God knows He chose Israel, He chose David, He chose you as a nation. That's God's business. Then he finally ends up, and I love that 11th verse, and we just spent some time on that yesterday morning when he talks about, and here's some physical, visible evidence of God. And he's talking about the ark that was set up. And the ark was set up there in the temple. And in other words, and Solomon said, and remember the last verse, the first verse of chapter 5, he says the work was finished. He did everything there was to do. So the work is finished. God's set up, the temple's set up, the ark's put in place. Everything's been done. God has entered into His rest, it says, so to speak. And how appropriate that is for us today. God's finished the work. He's set everything up in glory. He's sitting on the right hand of the Father. He's entered His rest, if you'll have it, so to speak, and He's there for us. And here's the evidence, and we have God's Word in our heart, don't we? Bible talk about God's in the house. This is the house. God's in the house. And we have Him in the house. So there we are. But what I wanted you to look at, and this is what I got thinking about today. I was thinking about this thing, and I told you folks, I overread and overstudied, on this thing, and God just told me that, it's not about that. It's not about you. And God said out of Jeremiah 23:29, it's my word that's a fire. It's my word that's a hammer that breaks the rock. It's got nothing to do with my words, my preaching, Michael saying. It's got to do with God and His word and the power of His word. Then when I got to thinking about that, I said, man, I said, why in the world are we not tearing the house down? I mean, why are we not reading? Why has everybody in here not got their praise on? And the Lord showed me in this chapter 6, verse 12 and 13. Listen to this. And he stood before the altar of the Lord. Now you know what's happened. If you don't, you need to catch up real quick. Solomon's finished the temple. It took 11 years to do it. God's done everything He said to do. He's having a dedication service. And here they are now. Solomon's in front of the temple. He faces the temple and he talks to the Lord. He turns around and he faces the people and he starts talking. And he stood before the altar. And then after he faces the temple, He turns around and faces the people. The altar's on faces the people. The altar's on his left, and then he turns to the altar of God, and he's on his little 7 foot by 7 foot by 5 foot bronze pulpit area that they built up for him. Now listen to this, and I want you to consider Solomon's prayer now. And he stood before the altar of the Lord in the presence of all the congregation of Israel, and he spread forth his hands, for Solomon had made a brazen scaffold of 5 cubits long, 5 cubits broad, 3 cubits high, and he had set it in the midst of the court. That's in front of the temple, beside the altar, in front of the main gate coming into the court of the Gentiles. And upon it he stood, and now listen to this. Now this is the king, okay? And he knelt down upon his knees before all the congregation of Israel, and he spread forth his hands toward heaven. Now, here's the situation. I want you to see just 2 simple things. Number 1, I want you to see the shamelessness of his prayer. You understand who this is? This is the king, okay? This is the king of the most powerful nation there is in the world. At this time, this is the king of the dominant nation in the world. He gets on his knees in front of all of his subjects. He's not ashamed of his Lord. He don't care if they're looking at his back, if they're looking at his feet, if they're looking at his head. You understand? Solomon's getting ready to get his praise on. That's what I'm talking about. And here he is in front of all these people. Now, not only is he the king, but he's the wisest man there is on the face of the earth. And he knows he is, because God's already told him that. 7 years before, God told him, because you didn't ask for riches, I'm going to give you all the riches you can handle plus some. And then besides that, I'm going to give you wisdom, so that nobody that's ever lived before you, or no one that'll ever live after you, that'll be a king, will have as much wisdom as you do. So Solomon knows, when he stands up there, I'm the king of the most powerful nation in the world. And not only that, I am the wisest man that ever lived. Now, I'm telling you what's the truth. That caused man to strike. You talk about hard to be humble, man. When God himself told you that you was the wisest man that ever lived, and that there never even be anyone after you, do you not know that'll get your motor running? But I want you to look at what Solomon did. But instead of the pride and dignity that you would think that would foster in someone, Solomon begins to think of who it was that made him who he is. If you'll never forget who it was that made you who you is, you'll be able to get your praise on too, instead of sitting there like you wished it was over so you could go to the dairy hut. Amen. I'm telling you, God will bless you if you'll let it. Why in the world are we not? If Solomon could do that, why can't we do that tonight? Everyone. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but there have been some people around here enjoying the Lord. Have any of you noticed that? I mean, there have been some people down here having a good relationship. Someone came up to me last night and said, you know, I'm not perfect, but boy, I love the Lord, and it's just so good to serve Him and just to feel His presence. Isn't it the truth? Thank God for that. So here He is, and it's happening here. There's people in here that's begin to think about who made them who they are. And watching it, I tell you what, last week, me and Barbara went to the Barn Theater in Greensboro. Simon sent me on it. And we went up there and we saw the play Crowns. And it's a black musical. Fantastic, wonderful program. And that's how they promote it on their marquee, a black gospel musical. And these ladies talk about how important their hats are. Now you listen to me, stay with me a minute. We had a time, son. We had church in the theater. I mean, we had church. And they got to talking about their crowns, their hats. They call them crowns. And it talked about the history, and the whole musical was about the history of hats over the years. And how important that hat was that they wore to church when they went to church. And we were watching them, they got up into the contemporary times and this one lady got up there, and then, of course there was all actors doing everything, but she had to have some of Jesus in her, didn't she? I'm going to tell you. She got up there and she got going. She was the preacher. No, it wasn't the preacher. Was it the preacher? Well, it was all preaching. And anyhow, she got to go across the stage, and she said, and she talking about how they love their hats. And you know I'm a hat lover. Every time you see me, I've got a hat of some kind on. My head's always covered, except when I'm up here. And And so, and she gets going across the stage, and she's got this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful hat on. And she's going across, and all through the program, they say, "You don't touch my hat. You don't touch my hat." And when they'd hug with their heads over this way so they didn't touch her hat. You know what I'm saying? But she starts across the stage. She takes that hat that through the whole hour of program, they've been talking about how precious they are. You don't touch them. You don't get them dirty. You don't dust them. Takes that hat, she throws it off down to the floor, and she said, "There ain't no hat going to keep me from getting my praise on." See what I'm talking about? Ain't nothing as important as praising Jesus. And that's what this is about. That's what Solomon's doing, and he's showing us now. If you guys don't have any fun the rest of the night, it's your own blame fault. Because God's already done everything He needs to do. The work's been done. The job's been finished. And Michael's ready to sing. Now I want you to get your praise on. You ready, brother? Amen. Thank you, brother.
Oh, thank you, brother. Amen.
Woo.
That makes me want to do a little Baptist-costal number there, right? Woo! Glory to God. Thank you, Brother Homer. I'm telling you what a great word. What a great word.